Wow!
magbukas eh.
Wow, grabe. Oh, ayaw nyo kami buksan, sinusian namin.
Iniwan ni Kika yung susi sa labas.
Oh, guys. Baka easy access.
Oh, guys, we have a guest for you.
Sir,
This is Dom Einhorn.
Hi, good morning.
Where you came from, sir?
Bon appetit.
Perfect timing.
But we're going to go here in our beautiful garden, Dom.
Co-founder and Chief Marketing Officer and
Thank you very much.
Born2Invest.
Yes. So
Hi,
actually,
sir.
Dom is here to introduce us to an exciting new app. Can you tell us more about this? What is it called and what is it about?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me here. So Born2Invest is a relatively novel concept in the news consumption business. It specifically caters to business and finance news. And what the app does is it summarizes, it aggregates and curates financial news in 80 words or less from around the world. So that rather than having to read an article that may be 600 to 1,200 words in length, you get the opportunity of reading a curated digest, a short digest that was produced by a professional Filipino-based writer for the English world.
Okay.
So it saves you a lot of time. It gives you a more encompassing view as to what's going on around the world in the business and finance arena. Quick in and out. If you want the full story, you click the read more button and you'll get the full story.
So can you show us the app?
Sure. So basically, the way it works, I'm not sure if you can see this on
Yeah,
air.
there.
Okay.
There you go.
The way it works is you will get a lead image, you'll get a headline, and up to 80 words of text, never more than 80 words of text. If you like what you see, you'll simply click the read more button and you'll get to the source where you get the full entry. Other than that, you can just scroll through next story, and all of these stories are curated from around the world, from what we call vetted sources, trustworthy news sources around the world, and a professional journalist in English, in other languages around the world. We're doing this by the end of the year. We'll be live in about 50 languages, covering 150 countries around the world.
Great.
What are the usual topics that you would center on in this app?
Well, because we're business and finance specific, clearly business and finance, which breaks down into topics such as investing, personal finance. So, for example, financial literacy is a big topic of ours, right? Especially in emerging economies like the Philippines, because a lot of people need to be aware as to what affects, for example, a great auto loan rate, right? What do you need to do to prepare for a mortgage? Those topics typically are not taught in school.
Yes.
Right? I grew up in Germany and in France. Nobody ever taught us about personal finance. We had to learn the hard way by making the mistakes. So one problem that we intend to resolve is we intend to empower the reader, especially the young reader, as to what they need to know when it comes to making very important life decisions in the business and finance arena.
I'm curious because you mentioned that you also feature local news.
Yes.
So specifically here in the Philippines,
Correct.
You'll be featuring local news here. But how do you tap? Where do you get your sources
Okay,
to
so-
get these news?
Yes, very good question. So no matter which market in which we operate in, so the Philippines, for example, there are 2 layers of content. And probably the easiest way to explain it is how a journalist actually creates content that will be featured in the app. All the content is created within a web browser using something that's called a CMS, a content management system. The professional journalist selects a news source from which to pull from, whether local or international, and keeps a good balance between local and international news, and then crafts an 80-word summary that links to that source. So when a journalist, for example, in the Philippines creates a story, he or she, we have more she's than he's in the Philippines, will create that story and then tag it to the Philippines. So for example, if we write a story about the GDP growth rate in the Philippines coming from a local news source, more than likely that's a local story that we will tag to the Philippines. And Philippines only, not the US, for example, or other English-speaking countries around the world. On the other hand, if we have a story with a macroeconomic angle that has a worldwide appeal, the journalist will simply tag all English, which means all of the English countries will receive that content. So in essence, what you're seeing is one single app, and that app morphs itself no matter where you are in the world.
And
So-
generates news from all over the
All over
world
the
as well.
That is correct. So,
Yeah.
so there is a layer that we kind of like dictate upon the user, but also you on the receiving side can then fully customize the app via the user settings.
And you have total control of what's going to be shown in your app.
Full control. So
Yeah.
you may say, I'm not interested in personal finance. You can tune that off. You may
Okay.
say, I speak more than one language. Give me news in 3 or 4 different languages, and we will feed that news directly in those same categories. So now, which has been a problem of mine for 20 years, having to go to 15, 20 different websites every single day to get my daily news fix. What this does, it pulls all of those news sources into one and on the go. So you have it at your fingertips. It's refreshed, updated 24/7.
To take out all the noise, no?
Yeah.
Because if you browse through the internet, you just Google financing, mortgage, etc. There's a lot of articles, but you do not know which one to actually read
Well,
or which is going to be useful for
I think
you.
it's a very good point. Like, for example, this morning, just as a test before I came in, I typed in Manila News into Google,
Yeah.
and I got 60 million search results.
Wow.
Knowing that nobody ever goes beyond page number 1,
Correct.
the first 10.
Correct.
So why deliver 60 million?
Yeah.
Because the human brain can only assimilate so much, and that's was one of the major reasons behind the
So this
engineering.
is
of this app.
exactly direct to the point news.
Correct.
Then I would also like to ask, are there any other features that users like us could interact with your app?
Yeah, so for example, we have some light features right now. There will be multiple iterations of the app, so it will evolve over the next few months. The version that's going to be launching tomorrow that anybody can find by just typing in Born2Invest with the number 2, all in one string, BORN, number 2, INVEST, into the Play Store, will have the ability for you to share a story, comment on the story as you share it via Twitter, LinkedIn. You can also email it to a friend. So it will have an engaging piece. Something that we're starting to work on, which will probably be ready in a couple of months, specifically for financial literacy, is an entire section dedicated to what we call edutainment, where you'll be able to play financial quizzes and learn on the go.
Oh,
Multiple
wow.
choice questions and answers, and win prizes. Invite your friends to play against you to see if they can get a higher score.
That's exciting.
etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so what's your target market here? I mean, do you expect 20-somethings or even college students to actually download this app and then read about it? Or do you just target those who have disposable income already to invest?
Our core market in the Philippines is definitely the young to old person at large. So we're looking for mass consumer appeal. One of the major reasons why we decided to do this is not specifically to cater to the upper income earner, but to the person who is on his way up to that level. So we really are looking specifically in emerging economies to empower the young user by giving him tools that historically have only been available to people making more money or people living in a different part of the world, which is relatively unfair. So it's been an unfair access to knowledge. That's also one of the major reasons why our app is free and always will be free. There's never any charge for it.
I have one last question. I
Sure.
have one major concern, because you mentioned a while ago about push notifications that would notify the users if they want they want to be notified about certain topics, certain news.
Yes.
Right? I was wondering if you have a certain control over it that would not lead it to spam.
Yes, a very good, very valid concern. So there are two layers of controls when it comes to push notifications. Layer number one is when you download an app, you're first being prompted. Each user is being prompted whether or not to accept or decline push notifications. As a rule of thumb, 6 out of 10 people who download any app say yes to push notifications, which already means that 40% say no, I don't want to be bothered no matter what.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, you can always, via the user settings, turn it off, right? And in a future version, also customize the type of push notifications you may receive. So you may say, only send me a push notification when you have a new financial literacy game I can play. And that's, we will cater to you on that level. At the end of the day, we're looking at keeping people around, keeping them engaged, worst thing for us to happen is for someone to delete our app.
Yes,
right?
that's true.
Yeah.
So we
Once
will do anything we possibly can to keep people around, keep them interested, and keep them engaged.
Awesome.
So Dom, invite our viewers to download
Download
your
your-
app and please also promote what's going to happen tomorrow.
Okay, well, we have a little interesting gimmick going on for the first month here in the Philippines. We'll be giving away an iPhone 6, possibly an iPhone 6 Plus. We're looking at sourcing venues right now. All people have to do, starting tomorrow, download our app, which again you can find in the Android Play Store, simply by typing in our name, Born to Invest.
To invest.
So BORN number 2 INVEST, and what will happen is that you will see randomly we'll probably have multiple prizes, but this is one of the prizes. You will see a screen pop up as you browse through our news that notifies you that you have won the item. At which point in time you just click on it, you fill in your information, and we'll make sure you get the prize. So very excited about the launch.
I'll download it now.
Now.
Yeah, you can't. It's not available yet, but tomorrow you'll be able to.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
It's great having you here, Mr.
Thank you very
Dom
much for having
Einhorn.
me.
All right. And then
Thank you so much.
Before we let you go, I want to know if since you've been here for 6 years, right?
Yes.
What is, do you know any Tagalog word?
Probably
Mahal kita.
probably only the ones I shouldn't be mentioning. You know, like every
Never mind.
like every little kid. Those are the ones I learned first.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Dom.
so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.